Alright, so we are on Chapter 40 of the Promised Neverland now, and that is what we will be discussing in today's review, Chapter 40 of the Promised Neverland. So, when it comes down to this overall chapter, I mean, it was really simple. Really simple, and it was obviously something that was kind of already, you know, shown to us in the last chapter, and that is that technically Emma has a guidebook that can help them along their journey throughout, you know, the world that they are now inhabiting, which is, I guess, let's just say we call the title of this world Neverland right now. Alright, so Chapter 40 of the Promised Neverland is out, and that is what we will be discussing today in today's review of the Promised Neverland. So, let's get right into it. Now, when it comes down to this overall chapter of the Promised Neverland, I don't know about you guys, but it was actually really short. It really was. Or at least it felt short. I mean, I guess there was like 20 pages within this chapter, but I mean, it was a very straightforward chapter. I mean, pretty much what we saw in this chapter was almost technically what we saw in last week's chapter, if you really think about it. I mean, honestly, the only difference that we really saw in this chapter that we kind of already expected to happen as well is for the demons to actually arrive. This was shown in the beginning. The demons are actually tracking down the location of the, you know, kids who have escaped from the orphanage, and they are willing to do anything within their power in order to make sure that the valuables of the kids, you know, quote unquote, okay, the valuable kids do not get eaten. The rest can actually be killed off, but some of the kids, like Emma, Ray, and I'm assuming Gilda and Dawn as well, are very, you know, valuable in terms of what they want to consume. So they don't really care about anyone else necessarily. They just want their most valuable kids, and they are even willing to go as far as killing off the other, you know, creatures within this world, you know, to stop those creatures from consuming the kids. So this just shows that the demons are willing to do anything they can in order to stop anyone who is willing to take away, you know, their future consumable. So this just shows that the demons are really serious into getting their, you know, most valuable possessions back, because they are willing to kill off anything that stands in their way. So there is that. They haven't exactly gotten to the location of where the kids are, but they are very close, and they are drawing very near, and we can most likely expect these demons to pop up in, you know, the future chapters to come very soon. But as far as the rest of this chapter goes, in the very last page of the previous chapter that we saw in Chapter 39 of the Promised Neverland, we saw that Emma actually has the William Minerva guidebook, or the adventure book, which is basically all of the journeys that William Minerva went on, or at least the fictional characters that were brought about within the story. In, you know, from what we see in this chapter of the Promised Neverland, which is, I think, the guy was named Ugo, and then there was also a lemur named Marvin. So when it comes down to the guidebook, I'm assuming that this is, you know, a representation of basically, you know, William Minerva's, you know, memories in which he had on his own personal travels, and he made this guidebook to, you know, pretty much remember the travels that he had along in this, you know, outrageous world, so to speak. As to who in fact is representing, you know, the book's characters, we're not exactly sure. I mean, there's a lemur, and then there's a guy named Ugo. For all we know, Ugo can represent William Minerva himself, but who would be the representation of the lemur? You know, I mean, who knows? I mean, this is a shonen. Even the lemur can represent William Minerva. But, I mean, it could represent, you know, William Minerva's companion that he had at the time. What happened to his companion, you know? So it really brings up the question if these two fictional characters are, in fact, fictional. Are they the representation of something? You know, just what exactly is going on here with those? But basically, you know, the guidebook is a story about those two and on their travels. So I'm assuming that, you know, since this is a representation of William Minerva's memories, I'm assuming that William Minerva had to have gone on to a journey with, a companion. So there is that. And basically this place in which they are at right now is very reminiscent to one of the stories within William Minerva's, guidebook. And pretty much the kids end up getting out of the area in which they are in alive. Because the guidebook not only is sort of like a representation of the area in which they are in, but it also is familiar to what the world inhabits. So with this guidebook, the kids can actually get out of any sort of predicament in which they are at, and they can pretty much know all of their surroundings of the world, and they can also know pretty much, any sort of creature that comes their way, as long as it is in the guidebook. Here's the thing. Here is where the story could get a little sloppy for me, and hear me out here, okay? The thing is that I'm most worried about when it comes down to the Promised Neverland is that the guidebook seems a little bit too convenient for our characters. Still, there is probably a little bit more they need to learn about the guidebook because, William Minerva has coding and whatnot in his books. So I'm assuming that, one way or another, they're going to have to figure out on how to decipher these. 2, could the guidebook actually have some missing pages? 3, could the guidebook actually have none of the areas they visit in it? So if they visit an area that they are completely unaware of, will that information still be in the guidebook, and will they have to rely on their natural instincts in order to survive? That is where the story can get very, very interesting. But if we are actually just getting the characters to have a guidebook in which they can pretty much get out of any situation they are in, with the info that this guidebook provides, that would personally suck in my personal opinion. But hopefully it doesn't go that route. Hopefully, we see a little bit more from, this guidebook that will give us a little bit more info as to how the story will progress without faltering, which I'm really hoping it doesn't. But yeah, really, this was a simple chapter. The demons are on the way. The kids ended up getting out of the area in which they were trapped in, thanks to the guidebook. Let's just hope that, the guidebook doesn't really give them... Let's just hope that the guidebook doesn't give away too much help to the characters, because then that would really, kind of make the story falter a little bit, in my personal opinion. I want our characters to actually go through trials and tribulations in order to overcome certain obstacles, but at the same time, I want to see consequences as well. Will there be more deaths? I want to see stuff like that. I don't want to see, just our characters getting out of every sort of situation they can, with the help of this guidebook. I want there to be, consequences along. Can they trust the guidebook, when it comes down to the world itself? Ray even also kind of pointed that out, to Emma. Can we actually trust the book, to actually, survive, this sort of trap that we are in right now? They got lucky here, and relying on the book seemed to work, but will it work in the future? So that's, those are some questions that I have, and I'm very interested to see what comes of the Promised Neverland later down the line. But I really just hope that the guidebook itself will not be, something that the characters will rely on 24/7, and they will end up getting out of every sort of dangerous situation that they come across in the future. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What did you think about this chapter of The Promised Neverland? It was a pretty simple chapter in my personal opinion. It was good, but it didn't really show us a whole lot. So I'm looking forward to the next one, just to see if we can get a little bit more info, and also to see if the demons will appear very, very soon in the next coming chapters of The Promised Neverland, because it does seem like they are quite close by. Be sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Hit that red subscribe button down below if you want to see more content from me, such as this one. And also, just let me know your overall thoughts on what you thought about this chapter of The Promised Neverland. What did you like about it? What did you hate about it? Do you think that, the guidebook is going to be a very convenient plot element within The Promised Neverland and could possibly falter the story? Or are you optimistic about it? Do you think that, the guidebook will also have some consequences if our characters rely too much on it? Just let me know your overall thoughts in the comments down below. That about does it for this video, everyone. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you all in the next one. Professor out.